Right now, a lot of people are still coming to grips with the Ascension feature and with Assistant Generals. So in this video, I'll be sharing a few quick tips on both of these systems that I've learned so far. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha. You can call me Aka. Now, the first few tips that we're going to be covering will be regarding Ascension. As you're probably aware, there are a lot of good generals in the tavern right now, and a lot of people will have plans of raiding the taverns to get different generals. So, whenever you go into the tavern and you're looking for a specific general, but you come across a general that you have and would probably like to ascend in the future. If you have enough gold, it will be a good idea to pick up that general once you come across them in the tavern. Buy them and then convert them straight into fragments and store in your inventory. There are two immediate benefits to doing this. The first one is you've picked up a general that you'll probably like to ascend in the future, so you don't have to worry about getting fragments for them later once you're ready to ascend them. The second thing is that it helps free up your general list. Instead of having the generals in your general list taking up space, you convert them into fragments and store in your inventory where you have unlimited ability for storage. So, for example, the last time I was raiding the tavern looking for a specific general, I came across Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He is a duty general and he is someone that I would like to ascend in the future. I had enough gold, so I picked him up, converted him straight into fragments. You can see that right now, I have 60 fragments of Hideyoshi ready to go. So, once I get to the point where I'm ready to ascend him, I don't have to go back in the tavern again. Once I have enough blood of Ares, it's a straightforward thing. In addition to Hideyoshi, I've also done similar things for Ulysses S. Grant and for Minamoto. So the fragments are there ready to go anytime I'm ready for them. Another added benefit is that if you do this when any of the consumption events are running, the gems that you use will count to your gem consumption for that event, and you can also get additional rewards from that as well. On that note, we move right into the second tip, and that is it is better for you to keep your generals as fragments as opposed to composing them into the general tokens. Typically, once you have 30 fragments of a general, you can compose them into the specific general token and store them in your inventory. That's the gold ones. We'll just scroll up very quickly so you can have a look. These ones right here. It is better for you not to do this and to keep them as fragments. The reason being, as we mentioned earlier, it's easier for you to use them for Ascension if it's a general that you want to ascend. But once you convert them into these tokens, you need to perfectly dismiss them to convert them back into fragments. You lose nothing by storing them as fragments, but once they're in this state, it will cost you gems to move them back into fragments. So, moving on to the next tip. When it comes to ascending your generals, depending on the amount of general fragments and blood of Ares that you have, it is best for you to ascend your generals up to stage 3. And then hold it there until you have enough fragments and blood of Ares to actually move to the next star of the Ascension. And this is because at stage 1, you get a boost to your leadership. At stage 2, you get a boost to attack. Stage 3, you get a boost to defense. However, at stage 4, you get a boost to politics, which for most people isn't very helpful. And once you move to stage 5, you get the next star. So by doing this, you get some of the necessary buffs that you need for your general until you're actually ready to jump to the next star and get the benefits that that star has. The next tip that I have is for you to, as much as possible, save doing Ascension on your generals for the Trials of Night event. That event comes around every few weeks or so, and it is the best way for you to get additional rewards for doing Ascension on your generals. You can get a variety of items, including Blood of Ares. So think of it as getting a discount on ascending your generals. If you have the patience for it, it's a smart thing to do, and it will be very beneficial for you in the long run. Okay, moving on to assistant generals. The first tip that I have for you is if you have a general combination that isn't final. In other words, you are not entirely satisfied with the combination that you have right now, keep an open mind. When any new general becomes available to you, be sure to test them out to see what sort of possibilities you might have. Your assistant general combinations will always be dependent on the generals that you have at your disposal, not what is theoretically the best. So keep an open mind for those. The next tip that I have is specifically regarding range assistant generals. Now, if you're someone like me that was unfortunate enough to not get Kaguya when the event was running, you might be feeling a bit bummed out. And that could further be compounded if, again, you are someone like me whose family member got Kaguya. But fret not, because there is still a decent option available. Nar is one of the generals that is available in the tavern, and in my opinion, this guy is like the super assistant for ranged generals. His main skill increases ground troop and mounted troop attack by 15% and increases ranged troop attack by 35%. That is pretty good and is much better than what you will get from a lot of the generals that are easily available in the tavern. And from some of the testing that I've done so far, he seems to be compatible with a lot of the main ranged generals that are available in the game. So if you're still looking for a decent ranged assistant general, anytime you're raiding the tavern and you come across Nar, consider picking him up. I think he's a good choice. Finally, for assistant generals, when you have generals that you're using for hunting monsters or even for hitting the world boss, it is a good idea for you to gear up your assistant generals with the monster books. These books are specific for hitting monsters and they give you a considerable boost over the standard versions of the books that they have. If you're looking at your mounted general, for example, you would want to prioritize having mounted attack on monster and mounted HP on monster. Once you've prioritized these two books, then you can consider having mounted defense on monster. These you can easily put on your assistant general. In addition, if you have other troop types that you're using for attacking monsters, range general or ground general, and you have a combination, and your assistant general is someone that you can easily pick up, what you could do is you could have a second copy of your assistant general that is geared up with the monster books for that specific troop type. For example, I have Trajan that I use as my assistant general for ground PvP. And you can see that I've booked him for ground PvP. However, I occasionally use ground for hitting monsters. And for that, I have a second Trajan that I picked up during one of my raids on the tavern. And as you can see, I have booked him specifically with monster books. So anytime I'm using my ground combination for monster, I make sure that I have this particular Trajan as my assistant. This is not something that everyone can do, but if you're interested in doing it, this is something that will help you hit those monsters and even the world boss a bit better. So those are all the tips that I have, and I hope that you might find some of them helpful to you. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.